Well, there's just two more sessions, and even with these two more sessions, we're not going to complete the prayers of Prahlada Maharaj to Lord Nrsingadev, but I think I can give a little background, especially because the topic this evening is very different from what we discussed. You would never guess what the topic was that we just discussed by hearing what we're presenting now. There was a series of verses. The last series of verses was young Prahlad speaking to Lord Nrsingadev with an understanding, a tacit understanding, that he, Lord Nrsingadev, is one of the many avatars of Vishnu. He doesn't state it, but rather he's describing Lord Brahma and Lord Brahma's attempt to find out the source of his existence. No, I'll have to chew the microphone. Lord Brahma, very, very, very beginning of creation. In other words, there isn't the preliminary creation was made by Lord Vishnu, but the secondary creation was not yet made by Lord Brahma, which means there wasn't anything. There was no sunlight, moonlight, or electricity. There was nothing. There was darkness in all directions. And he, being very intelligent, he wanted to find out his source of existence. This is a little summary of what we discussed, the last section of prayers. So, using his intelligence, I'm seated on a lotus, there's a stem from which the lotus has come, let me go down the stem and see if I can find where it came from. For 100 years, no, not our 100 years, but 100 of Brahma's years, which is a long time. It's a long time. He was searching, and he couldn't find. And then an explanation is given that, like, a tree grows from a seed, or a flower grows from a seed, or something grows from a seed. And when you're looking for where that came from, the seed is gone. So you won't find where it came from because the seed is gone. It's now the plant or the tree or the... So he couldn't find. So then, default, he went back up to the top of the lotus and he did Tivra Tapasya. That his Tivra Tapasya doesn't delineate what it was, but in Sri Brahma Samhita it delineates. He chanted his mantra. And where did he get a mantra? He heard from the primordial goddess Saraswati, that's Sri Brahma Samhita. Bhagavatam doesn't say that. And then, chanting his mantra, he then heard a second mantra from the flute of Krishna, and he chanted those two mantras, and then he became well acquainted with the ocean of truth and language of the Bhagavatam in the first canto. But in the 7th canto, which is what we're discussing, he had some realization of he experienced the presence of Lord Vishnu, the all-pervasive Supreme, within his own body. However, it doesn't say that the preliminary was not that he saw the Paramatma. Rather, he experienced the presence of the Supreme throughout his body in the form of his energies. The energies of Lord Vishnu were animating the body, along with his soul, were animating the body of Lord Brahma. There's a metaphor, like the earth has fragrance, but you don't smell it or see it. So also he experienced the imperceivable presence of the personality of Godhead, like the earth has aroma or fragrance within it, and different fragrances from different flowers and different ways of extracting fragrances from the earth. And then next it said, and then he had a further realization. The further realization was he saw that Mahapurusha, and specifically the verse describes essentially Purusha Sukta, Sahasra Shirsha Purusha, Sahasraksha, Sahasrapat, thousands of heads and faces and eyes and arms and legs and bodily limbs. He saw. He experienced Lord Vishnu, the all-pervasive Vishnu, not that each form had many heads and legs and arms, but altogether there's many forms, and thus many heads, legs, and arms. And he had that realization. So Prahlad knows all about this. And he's describing this, face to face with Lord Nrsingadev. And then Prahlad describes that Lord Brahma was in great anxiety because he was the manifester of the Vedas. He was the vehicle through whom the Vedas were manifest, and the Vedas were stolen by Madhu and Kaitaba. So in another Purana, not in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that Brahma, performed a yajna, and from the yajna came a form of Lord Vishnu. In the verse, in Prahlad's prayers, it says, Krishna, which form of Vishnu? Huh? Yeah, Hayagriva, thank you. Hayagriva appeared and went into the Garbhadak ocean and destroyed Madhu and Kaitaba, and then returned the Vedas to Brahma. Yay. All of that's in Prahlad's prayer. All of this is before the beginning of creation. What he's describing, and how did he learn that? Well, he had a spiritual master. That's one of the ways that you learn things. The Vedas weren't in a written form. They were in the sound vibration form. But he heard the sound vibration form from Narada Muni while he was still in the womb of his mother. And he had his antenna up. He received all of that and retained all of that when he was born. And so he's a little boy, and saying all these things, describing, so you are that supreme, Lord Nrsingadev. You are that supreme. Now, indirectly, he's not saying it directly, but Nrsingadev, is a form of Vishnu, or he's one of the avatars of Vishnu, and there are many other avatars of Vishnu, as we know from our scriptural teachings, or from Sri Brahma Samhita. Ramadi Murtisha Kala Niyamena Tishtan Nana Avataram Akarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu. There's many various avatars. And Lord Nrsingadev is one, a very prominent one, and for that matter, more than prominent, he's the Ishtadev of Prahlad. And so he's speaking to Lord Nrsingadev in an additional sense. It's not the same, but it's something like speaking to Vishnu, and while you're speaking to Vishnu, you're addressing Vishnu as Krishna. Because he's not Krishna, he's the form as Vishnu. But what are you doing? You're turning the...
I can't hear, so I'm increasing the audio slightly.
How about if I put my mouth closer to the microphone? But this echo doesn't sound good. I don't like it. Could you turn it down?
Yeah.
Thanks. I don't know. He tried to get me to put my mouth closer to the microphone. He's trying to get you to turn the volume up, and it's oppressive light year anyways. Sorry. Can't say. Can you hear back there? Yay. Okay. So all of this is just review of an earlier class that we heard about Prahlada's prayers. Now, the prayers continue, and he now, I'm going to introduce the theme of today's prayers, this evening's prayers. Prahlada is going to speak about in a voice of humility, I am so unfortunate. I'm attracted to material pleasures. He's a little boy. He's a pure devotee. He's in a stage of prema bhakti. Our acharyas make that very clear. He's a prema bhakta. And those who are in the stage of prema bhakti, they're extremely humble, abjectly humble. It's like, what? Why they, like Krishnadas Kaviraj speaking of himself of lower than a worm and stool, more sinful than Jaghai and Madha. He's not that. And it's not pretense, it's not cute, it's how he feels. It's a symptom, it's one of the symptoms, a natural symptom of one who's very elevated, is they don't feel themselves to be very elevated. They feel themselves very low and fallen and humble. So we'll hear him speak like that in his prayers. And then his attention, the mood shifts a little bit to the merciful Supreme Lord who can transform him, Prahlad, from this fallen to an elevated position. And then he turns slightly and looks at the suffering people of this world. And this is another symptom. Compassion is another natural symptom of an elevated soul. And he's thinking of their suffering. His attention shifts from his suffering or his circumstance to their suffering and appeals to Lord Nrsingadev, please deliver them. Or Lord Vishnu, please deliver them. You have the power. You have the power to bring about creation. You have the power to maintain creation. You certainly have the power to deliver people from this creation. And please do so. Now, well-wishing of a Vaishnava, creates good fortune for others, whoever that well-wishing is directed towards. In the temple, in the mornings, we've been reading 10th Canto Bhagavatam, chapter 16. And I came across something, for those of you that were attending those classes, or those that hear the recording of this one, I came across something in our Acharya's writings that explains a mystery. The mystery was, what was the good thing, or what created the good fortune for Kaliya to get what he got, the mercy that he got? Because Kaliya was a bad guy. He wasn't a demon, but he offended, he stole the property of Garuda and took it himself. It was like an offering, and he took it himself. And Garuda was angry. It was an offering to Garuda, and he took it and consumed it. So Garuda came chasing after him, and he went running and running and running, and so that because he's a poisonous serpent, he went to a place where Garuda wouldn't go, and that happened to be that particular place in the Jamuna River, where previously a sage had been in meditation, and Garuda came to take some fish, and the sage was upset with Garuda, so he cursed him, "If you ever come back here again, you're going to die." So Garuda wouldn't go there. And somehow Kaliya got a text message. And somebody said, hey, I know where you can go. You can go to the river Jamuna because Garuda will leave you alone. He won't come after you. So he went to the river all the way from Ramanaka Lake, which is said to be in Fiji. It's quite a distance to travel to get to Jamuna River, but that's what he did to get away from Garuda. So then when he's in the Jamuna, he killed entities, living entities, Brijbasi entities living in Vrindavan. Not, by biting them, but by the poison vapors and the land surrounding the lake and birds flying over, dropping dead because the fumes were coming out of the lake. They were so poisonous, they died. He was a bad fellow. So a question that was being discussed in the temple is, what was the cause of that good fortune? He was just bad stuff, and Krishna didn't kill him. He purified him. So what's the cause? And then the acharyas gave the answer. The blessings, the well-wishing, not exact blessings, but the well-wishing of his wives, who were exalted devotees, they pass on their exaltedness or well wishes to their husband. And therefore, that was the cause. Not he was a bad guy. And somehow his good wives created good fortune for him. And so he got what he got, purification. So, similarly, with these prayers that we're going to hear shortly, Prahlada is well-wishing for all the living entities in the material world that are suffering. It's not like some are suffering and some are just fine. Everyone is suffering, from the topmost down to the bottom. There's all suffering. So, that's this section that we're going to be hearing. And it's very eloquent. He's a little boy, but he's speaking, he has insight because he's prema bhakta, and that means because of that bhakti, he's getting realizations coming directly from the Supreme Person, so that he can understand things that the rest of us can't really understand. But we're getting an opportunity to hear directly from him about these very wonderful situations. There's Lord Nrsingadev. It's kind of, the tint on this screen is a little different than my computer. I'll show you my computer.
It's red, more red.
Yeah, it's a little brighter, a little different. I like what's on my screen different than that one, but that's okay. So we're hearing, as you see at the bottom now, Canto 7, Chapter 9, verses 39, 40, and 41. While we're looking at this image of Lord Nrsingadev, can I tell a little story? I mean, it will be a little late if I go on to storytelling, but there's two nice stories. One, let's do one. The Lord Nrsingadev, as you see, well, at least you can see his teeth and his mouth is open. He's ready to it's called Ugra Nrsinga. Ugra, terrible. He's ready to pounce on Hiranyakashipu because he's really angry. And he's showing his teeth and roaring, and his hands are like this. And the nails are extended, and he's ready to get him. And his eyes are reddish, and the around the pupil, the white part has this red tint. So the devotee who was the pujari at one time got this bright idea. People might be afraid when they see the deity and this feature, and so he decided to change his eyes. because the eyes are not part of the carving. It's, in addition to the carving. So he took these eyes and just put, white around the outside of the eyes. And the way the deity worship is done, some of you have been to Mayapur, that when the door closes, that's it. So it's just the pujari is inside and the rest of the world is outside. It's just one pujari. And by the way, it's only a brahmachari. The reason it's only a brahmachari is that's the requirement for Ugra Nrsimha. Only a brahmachari or sannyasi can properly worship. There could be a very a lethal reaction if others or worship the deity. So it's brahmacharis that worship this deity. So there's the brahmachari doing his puja. And he hears a voice. Return my eyes. He looks around, because it's just a little room. The door's closed, and then it happened again the next day, and then happened again the next day. So he was scared. He went to the head pujari, Jananivas, and said, what happened? Three days in a row. And so Jananivas, being the elevated personality that he was, he asked him, have you changed the deity's eyes? He said, yes. I thought this would be too scary, so he said, put them back. So it did. And here's the deity as you see today. So there are circumstances where the deity will talk audibly. Now, we heard today with Madhavendra Puri about both Gopal and Gopinath, how they appeared in dreams. The Pujari and Madhavendra Puri, they had a dream, and in the dream, this and that and the other. The deity spoke. To a king, the deity spoke. I want to stay here in Ramona, leave me here. Build a temple for me. So he did. But here's a nice example that, I haven't met the Pujari, but I heard from Jananivas, the story that I just narrated. So it's, Jananivas doesn't make up stories. So Lord Jagannath also interacts with devotees. Jagannath in Mayapur, they interact with the pujaris in certain ways. So deities are persons. That comes a whole, the Supreme Person is a person. And that means the Holy Name is also a person. So how can we be inattentive when you call a person and you're with the person and you're distracted? Really? It's like someone comes to meet you and you're sitting there with your phone and you're sending and receiving text messages, looking up every now and then, and your real business is your text messaging. It's offensive. So try to avoid that offensive inattention. It's one of the 10 offenses. And it's easy to be inattentive. Besides your cell phone, there's many ways that your mind goes to so many things. But the opportunity with deity worship and with anything to do with bhakti is we're inviting a reawakening of our forgotten relationship with Krishna. So here's these first two texts, 30:39 and 39:40, where the theme is this: a polluted mind and unbridled senses block our knowing Krishna. It's like this is a fundamental principle that's easy to understand, but the way that it's presented by Prahlada is very nice. So right after having described all these details of the Vedas being returned to Lord Brahma after the Madhu and Kaitava had stolen them, and all these very far out things, from early stages of creation. My dear Lord of Vaikuntha planets, where there is no anxiety, my mind is extremely sinful and lusty, Prahlad, being sometimes so-called happy and sometimes so-called distressed. My mind is full of lamentation and fear. Now he who withstood torment and torture and death attempts at his life by his father, who's super powerful, or the agents of his father who are super powerful. This is his humility, this is his ecstasy in a very advanced stage. That's how to take what he's saying. We'll hear the acharyas commenting like that. My mind is full of lamentation and fear. It always seeks more and more money. He's a little boy. He's still in school. So he's speaking in this way. It's not exactly the way the Sanskrit reads, but Prabhupada is in Vrindavan, or traveling here and there, writing for the world and giving lessons to the world through the agency of Prahlada. So it's okay. Thus it has become most polluted and is never satisfied in topics concerning you. I am there, because that's the remedy, that's the medicine. Topics in relation to Hari Katha. Along with Nama, there's Hari Katha. This is one of my favorite teachings. Here's a Bhakti Siddhanta teaching. We all know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, coming up, his appearance day is coming soon. He came as a Yuga avatar. By the way, there was some question, what are the other Yuga avatars? And you all should have received a nice little document with what are the Yuga avatars, the Yuga Dharmas in the 4 ages, and the names of those 4 Yuga avatars. And if you didn't receive it, complain.
You did my homework, Maharaj.
Huh?
You did my homework.
Yes, I know I did. So Prema, if you didn't receive, somehow get on the WhatsApp list or wherever these things are circulated, and you'll receive that nice document. It took some time to gather all that information. But the names of the primary Yuga avatars and the secondary, because there's different days of Brahma, so there are different names of those different avatars and features of them, etc., etc. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came as the Yuga avatar, and we'll hear indirectly speaking about him shortly. No, that was yesterday. So, it has become more polluted and never satisfied in topics concerning you. Yes. So this Bhakti Siddhanta teaches, we know the verse, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nascheva, 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 Gatir Anyata. So you all know the verse. And it's 3 times, Harer Nama. So Bhakti Siddhanta's teaching is, Harer Nama is silent about Hari Katha, but it's implied. It's implicit. 3 times, Harer Nama, but as we don't worship Krishna alone, we worship Krishna with Radha, or we don't worship Narayan alone, we worship with Lakshmi, or we don't worship Ramachandra alone, we worship with Sita. So similarly, we don't worship the holy name alone without Hari Katha. The female companion or counterpart of Hari in Harer Nama, the vocative it becomes Harer Nama, that's the Hari Katha. So Prahlada is saying, I have no attraction for the topics concerning you. He does, but he's saying he doesn't. It's his ecstasy in love of God, prema bhakti. I am therefore most fallen and poor in such a status of life. How shall I be able to discuss your activities? Now, commentary on this verse. Here's Bhaktivinoda Thakur at length discusses this in his Bhajana Rahasya as a nice example. He refers to this verse in the mood of Prahlad, and of course other sources, but it's nice. Oh, Krishna, how shall I get attachment for the topics concerning you? And how will I meditate on your pastimes? How can I obtain a taste for bhajan? No. It's a combination, it's a blend of what Prahlada is saying and the teachings of Shikshastaka, the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly. I have no taste. Nanu raga, I have no taste. So that's specifically with relation to the holy name, but same. So here's Jiva Goswami in the very first Anucheda of Bhakti Sandarbha. He refers to this verse of Prahlad. That's how prominent this verse is. By following the example of these words of Sri Prahlad, who thinks himself very fallen and lowly, many others have attained the Lord. So humility is, and even this abject humility is favorable. In Krama Sandarbha, he refers to the same verse. Speaking in this way about the Lord, and then remembering his previous birth condition, like packed up in the womb of his mother, etc., thinking of the misery of birth, and with great thirst, thinking about the topics of the Lord, like persons who cannot access them, he criticizes his mind. So, Jiva Goswami, our acharyas have a way of looking at the sound vibration of Bhagavatam verses and experiencing a Krishna connection and sharing that Krishna connection with us in very special ways. Here's Vishwanath. My mind does not take pleasure in topics of your form, qualities, and pastimes. Question. Why do you not enjoy these tasty topics? Answer. The mind is spoiled by sin, just as the tongue is spoiled by jaundice and cannot taste sweetness. It's hard to control. Tivram. How can I understand the truth about you in this mind having desires for wealth? And he's a little boy, so it's being paraphrased that his absorption is money, but for those who have absorption in material things, money or any other thing that money can buy, and be absorbed in that, then it blocks bhakti. Prahlad's mind is not actually like this, but his attitude arises from humility in the variegated waves of prema. So there's the explicit statement of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who's, as I commented yesterday, and I'm sure you remember, he's a Rasika Bhakta. He always includes rasa in his teachings. So here's Prabhupada in his purport. To understand the Lord and his activities, one must free his mind from all contamination of the material world. This one can achieve by simply chanting the Lord's holy name. Thus, one becomes free from all material bondage. I'm going to pause and tell a little Prabhupada story. Prabhupada had godbrothers. The explanation has been given that not only Prabhupada was given this instruction to go to the English-speaking parts of the world and present Krishna consciousness, it was told to many. It was a well-known desire, as it was the desire of his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who, in the English language, because he could speak, Bhaktivinoda Thakur could speak multiple languages, he wrote in English an 86-page little booklet and had it printed, offset printing, and sent it to universities all around the world. Lord Chaitanya, his life and precepts, with the explicit understanding that at least the educated people in the world should know who was Lord Chaitanya, at a time when people didn't know who was Lord Chaitanya, at a time when people didn't know a lot of things, to the time that India was under British rule. And people would at least Gandhi and others would think people outside of India are not going to pay attention because who are you people? You're subjugated by the British. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had the vision, he passed it on to his son passed it on to his followers. And one fine day, where there were three persons, this is a little report. Apparently, one of Prabhupada's disciples was present to hear this discussion. Akinchana Das Babaji was with two devotees, Ban Maharaj and Prabhupada. And Ban Maharaj is one of the devotees who was sent to go to England, one of the two sannyasis, with money, with this and that and the other thing, to take the teachings into England. And he came back almost, as a failure. He wasn't able to establish much in England. So here's Akinchana Das Babaji, who was well-known lover of the chanting of the holy name, and then Prabhupada and Ban Maharaj. So, question from Akinchana Das Babaji. Both of you are highly elevated scholarly personalities. You know the scriptures inside and out. And one of you, by going to the West, one of you was successful, the other was not. What was the difference? And they looked at each other and, they were waiting for him to answer his question. And he said, because Swamiji, Prabhupada, had implicit faith in the holy name. And you didn't have the same faith in the holy name. Therefore, the one was successful and the other was not. So you want to be successful? What does implicit faith mean? In all circumstances, the holy name is the measure. And then, of course, Bhaktisiddhanta's teaching, the holy name implied is Harikatha. But it's not Harikatha minus Harinam. It's Harinam. And the Harikatha. Simply chanting the holy name, one becomes free from material bondage. Right there in his purport of this verse. There's Badahari. Your friend Badahari. The holy name of the Lord should be chanted 24 hours daily. From a verse in the Bhagavatam, Canto 4. So now we're going on to the next verse. Here's the next verse. We have one more after this one. My dear Lord, O infallible one, my position is like that of a person who has many wives, all trying to attract him in their own way. For example, the tongue is attracted to palatable dishes, the genitals to sex with an attractive woman, and the sense of touch to contact with soft things. Now he's a little boy, his sex desire is not awakened yet, but he knows that it's coming. And he later, Prahlada, became a householder, became a king. He took over his father's kingdom. The belly, although filled, still wants to eat more, and the ear, not attempting to hear about you, is generally attracted to cinema songs. There are no cinema songs. But, Prabhupada is addressing, an audience, the contemporary audience. So he's another way, like the previous verse, he's adjusting things for his contemporary audience. The sense of smell is attracted to yet another side. The restless eyes are attracted to scenes of sense gratification, and the active senses are attracted elsewhere. In this way, I'm certainly embarrassed. Now, the Sanskrit does speak of music, not cinema. But, a contemporary music attraction, at the time Prabhupada was writing this, at least, was cinema. And then cinema music, and acharyas have that privilege. It's okay. Whoops. So here's a BTG little indication of poor fellow. His senses are being pulled in different directions to enjoy the tongue, enjoy the eye, enjoy the touch. And, the fellow that's on his shirt there looks a little confused. So here's the Sanskrit of the verse, and I'm going to read the translation. No, we read the translation. This verse explains how a living entity attracted to sense objects such as form and taste is completely vanquished. No, that attraction can be vanquished. O Lord, if you suggest that I engage in kirtan, which alone can cure my wicked mind, I say that my tongue is never satisfied and pulls me either to taste new foods or speak gossip, unpleasant words, or falsehoods. Similarly, my other senses pull me to seeking out beautiful women, to working hard for gaining worldly wealth, or to defeat my enemies, etc., thus robbing me of my energy to engage in your kirtan and other kinds of service. A point worth noting is Bhaktivinoda Thakur took a lot of inspiration in his writings, Bhajana Rahasya and other writings, from the teachings of Prahlada. So here's Vishnu speaking. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Though the mind is wicked, still people become successful by chanting my glories. And now the response. Though my tongue for speaking and tasting is unsatisfied, it pulls me. O Achyuta, it is attracted to talking about material subjects and lies. And all of the 6 tastes, salty, sweet, sour, pungent, astringent, and bitter. The other senses pull me elsewhere, to women, to earning wealth, to beating others. Shakti means capacity. They destroy. Thus I have no time for chanting. Of course, this is Prahlada, and he's speaking in this ecstatic mood, and it leads up to the next verse. So here's Prabhupada's purport. The human form of life is meant for God realization, but this process, which begins with Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, hearing and chanting the holy names of the Lord, is disturbed as long as our senses are materially attracted. Therefore, devotional service means purifying the senses, and that's one of the items of for a beginner, for a kanishta adhikari, a qualification for the beginning stage of bhakti, is deity worship is very important. Why? Because deity worship engages all the senses in the form of the Lord. And for that purification allows one to better engage in the hearing and chanting along with deity worship. So it's not this instead of that, but it's purification in the beginning stage and then in the mature stage as well. Then the final verse. This is a shorter class than the other ones. Prayer for deliverance of all, expressed in profound humility. So he's turning attention away from his misfortune and turning his attention to the misfortune of all living entities in the material world. I mean, you see, it's really easy to... Here's some examples. I mean, it's really easy to think of examples of great personalities that understand the perils of this age and they want to do something. So Prahlada is one such person, and they want to do something. So Vyasadeva, looking into the future, saw the necessity of compiling the Vedas, and then he felt even after compiling the Vedas in a written form, because previously they were in a sound form, he's not satisfied, and then he did what he did, and he wrote Srimad Bhagavatam, etc., etc. Or another classic example is the sages of Naimisharanya, knowing that Kali Yuga was coming, and so their plan was a 1,000-year sacrifice to diminish the negative influences of the age of Kali. Or another nice example in the 5th canto, in the beginning of the 6th canto, after hearing the 5th canto of the hellish planets in the structure of the universe, the person who's hearing, who's about to die because he's been cursed to die from a snake bird, he's then concerned about all the living entities that are in the hellish planets and what can be done to relieve the living entities from suffering in the hellish planets. That's how the 6th canto begins. And then the story of Ajamila is narrated. Again, the importance of chanting the holy name is the reply that comes from Shukadeva Goswami. So, Prahlada is another example, right? In this very verse, right within the series, he's concerned with suffering, and now specifically he's concerned with the suffering of others. This is color-coded. You see at the bottom, para, chara, piprahi. So we're going to hear something about that. Prahlada addressed Lord Nrsingadeva as para chara, or he who was situated on the other side of the Vaitarani river, in the eternally free realm of Vaikuntha. What's the Vaitarani river?
Separates material world from the spirit.
Yeah. So in case you didn't hear what he said, because I have the microphone and he doesn't. There's the universe, the created universe, and then there's coverings of the created universe, and the outside the coverings of the created universe, what's there? The causal ocean. When Vamana poked his toe through the coverings of the universe, the causal ocean water came and washed the feet of Vamana, and thus came the Ganges into this world. So, on the Vaitarani is that causal ocean, or the other side of the causal ocean is this body of water. On this side is the material, on that side is the spiritual realm. So he who's on the other side of the Vaitarani river, Lord Nrsingadeva, please deliver people to that position. My dear Lord, you are always transcendental. You're always transcendentally situated on the other side of the river of death. But because of the reactions of our own activities, we are suffering on this side. Indeed, so he's likening himself to a conditioned soul, though he's not. We have fallen into this river and are repeatedly suffering pains of birth and death and eating horrible things. Now, kindly look upon us, not only upon me, but also upon others, all others who are suffering. That's para, chara, piprahi. By your causeless mercy and compassion, deliver us and maintain us. We heard yesterday, it was yesterday, about the name of the Supreme Lord who gives protection and maintenance for all. What was that word? A name by which the Lord Vishnu is known, or by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was known. Vishwambar. You remember? Some of you weren't with us. Vishwambar is the name at birth given by his mother and father to Lord Chaitanya. Vishwambar. His elder brother was Vishwarup, he was Vishwambar. And this kind of nickname came Nimai Pandit, but Vishwambar. But there's a meaning, and he fulfilled the meaning. It's right in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, here's a nice painting. This is showing the suffering living entities in the ocean of material existence. They certainly look like they're suffering. And then there's a boat, that's the Sankirtan boat. It's crossing the ocean of material suffering. Because of the reaction of our own activities, we are suffering on this side. Indeed, we have fallen into this river and are repeatedly suffering the pains of birth and death and eating horrible things, along with, other senses. We're experiencing that. Now, here comes taking the words, our acharyas have done this, taking the words one by one. Para chara piprahi. Kindly look upon us, not only upon me, but upon all others who are suffering, and that's everybody. Jiva Goswami writes about this particular verse. Remembering others' suffering to be like his own suffering, showing compassion, he ignores his own suffering and requests mercy for them. It's a nice subtlety. He's in Prema Bhakti. And as a Prema Bhakta, he's considering himself to be lowly and fallen and unworthy and not and disqualified and unfit for mercy. But while he's thinking like that, naturally, because he's a devotee of the Lord, he's thinking of others, and others like him are in similar situation. So that is to say, this humility is a kind of compassion. It's a teaching, it's subtle, but I like it, so I'm explaining it. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his discussion of Shikshastaka, Trinadapi Siniche Natura Evasahishnuna. What is that humility? Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, by definition, it's not just feeling oneself low, but it's compassion, same as the message here. Because one is feeling low, you're not, as a Vaishnava, is genuine, the right kind of humility, that's the Vaishnava kind of humility. You don't simply think of yourself, you think of others. And since I'm in this unfortunate, then others are in the unfortunate. And what can I do to help others who are in this unfortunate? Or how can the Lord be merciful and protect and uplift us? One isn't interested in liberation, one is interested in giving a palpable relationship with the Supreme Lord to all. And thus the Sankirtan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is exactly that. Or the way that Prabhupada dedicated his, everything, the years of his mature life, everything completely dedicated to one thing. Sarve sukhi no bhavantu. Everyone should be happy. It's really simple. And one who has elevated state of consciousness, it becomes even more so and even more so and even more so. So most of us aren't in that prema stage. There may be some prema bhaktas here, I don't know. But most of us aren't. And if we're not, that's okay. I mean, we are what we are. But what should we do? We should follow in the footsteps of those that are, and learn from those that are. And by serving those that have such a quality of compassion, guess what? The quality of those who you associate with becomes your quality. The purity of those who you associate with, who are elevated souls, and you not just look up to them, we should look up to them, but also serve them in various ways. Serve the mode and mission that our founder Charya gave. And that's our life. And how does that work? You know, many of you are householders. And householder means busy, busy, busy. With this and that and the other thing. You know, I'm not a householder, so I don't have that direct experience, but I can appreciate, gosh, you know, the list the things that you as householders are responsible to do. And it's a very not intimidating but demanding list. You have to be really together to be a Krishna conscious householder. And it's not a piece of cake, but there's a principle that makes it doable. Or you can be part of the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also in your own way, with other in the association of other grahastas. And there are other grahastas that do that, and have families and jobs and maintenance and house and mortgage and car payments and taxes and all that lovely stuff. They like you, they also have. And it's not only possible, it's meant, because the base of the pyramid is not a bunch of sannyasis. The base of a pyramid is householders, those that have worldly responsibility. Do the things that embodied souls do in a way that's Krishna conscious. That's special. And feel how you may feel oppressed by the circumstance, or you may feel within that circumstance somehow or other this safety measure has been given to me to protect me from the oppressiveness that otherwise other persons are victimized by, without naming the names of the difficulties. So the Bhagavatam is meant to give us that sense. Here's Sanatana Goswami, who also was a householder and then took the renounced order. I see, this is Brihat Bhagavatamrita, speaking, making reference to this verse. I see foolish people who have fallen by their actions into samsara, which is like the Vaitarani river, leading to hell, full of great pain, who fear both birth and death, and who make enemies and friends, quarreling with family members and others. Oh, Lord, situated beyond this, ever liberated, Lord, it is difficult. Today, save them, and me too, from the Vaitarani. So it's in the first part of Brihat Bhagavatamrita, the very, very early 10th verse in the whole section. And then later in the 4th chapter of the same part 1. Although immune to these dangers for our benefit, Prahlada speaks as if fearing the troubles he can expect in various births and deaths, and he presents himself as befooled, like most people, who deal with one another either as enemies or as friends, and who are thereby bewildered in all circumstances. Prahlada addresses Lord Nrsingadev as Parachara, he who is situated on the other side of the Vaitarani river, or in other words, in the eternally free realm of Vaikuntha, expressing his own pain at seeing the suffering of other souls in the material world. Prahlada requests the Lord to please carry them across the Vaitarani to safety. So Sanatana Goswami is at the top pinnacle of, the hierarchy of elevated souls, having been through the material plane and going higher and higher and higher. It's just he's immersed in the message of Srimad Bhagavatam and sharing the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, and wanting us to understand this mood of Prahlad. Behind Prahlad, that's the demigods who had pushed him forward down on the floor there at the Hiranyakashipu with a little problem with his chest, ripped to shreds by Lord Nrsingadev. So here's another example referred to by Srila Prabhupada. Vasudeva the leper. You know the story. This is thinking of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day coming up soon. Lord Chaitanya, in his South India tour, he passed through a village where he saw a leper. And the leper had such a diseased condition of leprosy that there were worms crawling through his skin. And when a worm that was already eaten into part of his skin fell on the ground, he'd pick it up and put it back. I mean, pretty amazing, huh? So Lord Chaitanya saw this poor Brahmin leper, and he went to the Brahmin leper and he embraced him. And the Brahmin leper said, "Who am I, a sinful poor friend of a Brahmana, and who is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full of 6 opulences? Nonetheless, he has embraced me with his 2 arms." He not only embraced him, but he cured his leprosy, like a miracle cure. Just embraced him and poof, leprosy was gone. The deliverer of fallen souls, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Here's Prabhupada's purport to this verse, and we're going to be finished. Fools who cannot perceive repeated birth and death and the other miseries of materialistic life cannot be sure of what will happen to them in their next birth. Indeed, these foolish, materially contaminated rascals, strong language, have manufactured an irresponsible way of life that does not consider the next life. They do not know that according to one's own activities, one receives a body selected from 8,400,000 species. These non-devotees, these rascals, have been described in the Bhagavad Gita as duskritana mudha. Non-devotees, those who are not Krishna conscious, must engage in sinful activities, and therefore they are mudhas, fools and rascals. They are such fools that they do not know what will happen to them in their next life, although they see varieties of living creatures eating abominable things, because that's mentioned in the verse directly. Pigs eating stool, crocodiles eating all kinds of flesh, and so on. They do not realize that they themselves, because of their practice of eating all kinds of nonsense in this life, will be destined to eat the most abominable things in their next life. A Vaishnava is always afraid of such an abominable life, and to free himself from such horrible conditions, he engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord. The Lord is compassionate to them, and therefore he appears for their benefit, which is, in response to the prayers of Prahlada. So how does that mercy come? In the form of a spiritual master. In our case, it's Srila Prabhupada and the writings of Srila Prabhupada, and profusely distributing this transcendental literature. Here's Srila Prabhupada at his arrival in the Boston Harbor. You know the celebrated poem that he wrote. Most of the population here is similar to Prahlada. Most of the population here is covered by nature's modes of ignorance and passion, and I do not know how they will be able to understand the transcendental message of Vasudeva. You are the Lord of the whole creation. So if you like, you can make my power to speak suitable so that they can understand. Like sing cinema songs and little boys saying sex desire and wanting money. And it's so that people, his audience, can understand. By your causeless mercy, only my words may become transcendently pure. And I am sure that when such transcendental message penetrates the hearts, their hearts, certainly they will feel gladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. Celebrated Markine Bhagavat Dharma message, the little part of it. It's a really nice poem. So this is it. That's our conclusion. Srila Prabhupada giving his association to such people as, clearly he was just a messenger. He would speak of himself like a postal peon. My dear sir, Krishna has written a letter. It's got your name on the envelope. Here's your letter. Please take it. And I'm just a letter deliverer. Demeaning kind of, peon, a postal peon, insignificant occupation, delivering Krishna's message to people. Here, it's got your name on it. This is for you. Please take it. And take it inside your heart. So, here's a nice teaching, and I'm going to end with this. Some of you may have heard, and if you haven't heard, try to find out. There's links to hear the recording of Radhika Raman's very nice seminar given in ISV on churning the topics of the Shastra. That was the title, in 3 parts. And one of his messages is exactly this, which is, when you read scripture, or like we're now discussing, one way to read is the what do I get from this? The conventional way of entrepreneurial, bartering, you do something to get something. So rather than reading so that you have more information, the next class you give, you have more information, that's one way to read, and that's kind of the way that, students study in college, because, etc. Because I'll get a good grade, and if I get a good grade, then I'll get placement in a good school, and so on, so on, so on. That's one common way. Then another way, his recommended way, is try to understand when you're reading, or in this case, when we're hearing these messages from our acharyas and from Prahlada, what is it that they have that they want to give? When you're writing something, supposing you're writing a letter to somebody, you're giving yourself to that person. And you're giving, ideally, some wisdom or some feelings or something that's important to touch their heart and touch their life. And certainly that's what Prabhupada was doing in giving his Bhaktivedanta purports in the way that he was doing. Yes, taking from the acharyas, but customized and specifically with the import, the purpose, the power behind it. The people that are suffering should not suffer. People should be happy. And what does happiness mean? It means spiritual, not material. So there may be some material, that's okay. Spiritual, that's happiness. In the relationship with Krishna. So when reading, what is it, or when hearing these prayers of Prahlada, what's he giving? He's not flattering Lord Nrsingadev, buttering him up, so he gets another pat on the head. It's love, and he's expressing here in these verses love for living entities that are like him, like the ecstatic mood of prema bhakti, they're in the material world suffering. So they appeal to the Lord to please deliver us, or please deliver them. Please help us get to the state where on the other side of this river Vaitarani, the material existence. Please call us, please carry us through sound vibration. Please bring us to that place. You have the power. Exactly as Prabhupada was praying in the Boston Harbor. And as his life displayed, that was how he lived his life. And following him, we can do the same. Small versions. We're little people, but it's small versions of who he was, and what his mood and mission was. The mood and mission of Srimad Bhagavatam is the mood and mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that's our life. From different ashrams and different ages and different backgrounds and different socio-economic, capacities. That's all. That diversity is there. The principle is the same for all of us. Okay. Let's see if there's some discussion. Yeah.
So Vaitarini.
Do this gentleman with the microphone? He wants to have us wait till he passes up the microphone, because there are people in the back that won't hear you unless you speak into the microphone.
Hare Krishna.
Go ahead. You got it.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hi, go.
So Vaitarini river, is she the part of the material world or technically?
It's the dividing between the two. You said it.
Yes, but one of the references.
It's on this side, and that the river has two sides.
Correct. But one of the references that you were giving from Sanatan Goswami.
Yeah.
From Brihad Bhagavatamrita.
Yeah.
He made it sound like we are suffering in the Vaitarini river.
Well, it's poetic. We're in it. We're not on the other side. That's the main thing. Not geographically, where are we? We're in the material atmosphere. Yes. And then there's the other side. The main thing is the other side. That's what it's meant to indicate with that para phrase. Okay?
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hi, Bo.
Hare Bol, Hare Bol. Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. And within this, you are glorifying Srila Prabhupada about the reason of his success quoted by one of his wonderful God brothers.
Yeah.
Where you had mentioned that, he mentioned that difference between the two disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati,
Yeah.
who one of them went to London and later on Prabhupada came. And you said that, quoting the devotee, that because of Prabhupada being successful, his attachment to the holy name.
Yes.
But now if we analyze that into our own personal part of teaching, what Prabhupada did with the resource that he had, with the age factor that he was, and within 11 years what he did with the preaching mission of ISKCON, after he left, the preaching has not gone to that level, or we are unable to present it. Is it that because we don't have an attachment to the holy name?
Not the same. That what Prabhupada had was otherworldly. We may have some, but not otherworldly. Now, do you know, I know, so you probably also know, there are kirtaniers in the Hare Krishna movement today that are super fantastic kirtaniers. And they have a lot of faith. But, qualitatively, is it the same? And those individuals, without naming names, super, they may not be able to present the teachings, the Hari Katha, but that's okay. The chanting of the holy name itself is very, very powerful, and it's the qualitative faith that Prabhupada had. It's not to say this other Ban Maharaj didn't have faith. He didn't have the same quantum of faith. No, Akinchana Das Babaji, he had unlimited faith in the chanting of the holy name, but he didn't also have that capacity to speak, as Prabhupada did. So it's a combination. The comparison was being made, so I'll go back to your question, but the comparison was both of you are highly learned, super scholarly persons, and can write and speak, and you know the scriptures, and you know you're on that plane you're the same, or very much alike. But this other is different. So, back to your question. The combination, and let's say further, the specific empowerment that was invested in our founder Acharya to do what he did. No, Prabhupada, was Prabhupada not able to pass on that same empowerment to others that Bhaktisiddhanta had the empowerment to give to him? Because in Prabhupada's words, Bhaktisiddhanta was with Prabhupada all the time. And so he felt his presence all the time. I never felt separation from my Guru Maharaj. So he was with him. So the sum total, to step back from your question, the Krishna consciousness that one carries enables one to do something like what Prabhupada did, and to some degree, there are many persons that are very powerfully presenting Krishna consciousness, but not turbocharged like Prabhupada was. So say the same thing in a different way. Our disciplic succession is unbroken, and yet there are some personalities in our disciplic succession that are particularly prominent. One, in terms of their writings. But for others that weren't so much known for the writings, but their deep faith, like Raghunath Das Goswami. He's not prolific in his writing like other acharyas of his time. But Rupa Raghunath, he held a very special position because of this elevated condition of Krishna consciousness, the combination of which was, these same things. So, one who carries, to get the empowerment of the personality of Godhead is very special. And one not having that same empowerment and similarly faith in the holy name, that's unique. The uniqueness of our founder Acharya is visible. How many volumes of books did he write? Just that alone. And how many places did he visit, and how many hearts did he touch? And he was empowered. Krishna Shakti. You want to take it further?
Yeah, not further, meaning just one added part is that sometimes, like when we speak about transcendental preaching style of Srila Prabhupada, talking into the life of a regular devotee, they like to say Prabhupada was somebody special, empowered by Krishna, as if it is not possible for us to do it because he was anyway special. So,
well, I've not heard anybody say specifically like that. It may be implicit. They may say it, I can't be like him because. But that's not true. Whatever the because is, that's limiting Krishna. We can't limit Krishna. If Krishna wants this Prabhu over there or that Maharaj over there to be specifically empowered, and he empowers them, that's fantastic. And I may not be the one that gets specifically empowered, and that's Krishna's mercy too. We have to allow Krishna to do things the way Krishna wants to do things, and stop nagging him or scripting him. Someone else? All the way in the back. All the way in the back. Pass it back. And she's coming forward a little bit too.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for such wonderful class. Sorry about my voice. Just on this topic, I just thought that Srila Prabhupada, he was a genuine, truly well-wisher for all. So just like we mentioned in the morning on the prayers from the wives of Kaliya, you know, they were praying for Kaliya. But Srila Prabhupada was praying for all. He was, and he always signed, "You're ever well-wisher." So maybe when we truly are, you know, become well-wishers, maybe Krishna will let us, will help us and help others, and hopefully we'll be able to serve better Srila Prabhupada.
You like glorifying Prabhupada even though it's hard for you to speak. May Krishna give you your voice back sometime soon. Okay. Others in the back, all the microphones in the back there? Anyone in the back wants to contribute something? Okay, pass it forward. There's something up front. All the way. Keep it coming. Over here. You have something? Okay.
So, thank you for the enlightening class, Maharaj. In Prahlad's prayers, 39, he says, I'm nothing, I'm nobody, and
humility.
Humility. Same thing with Prabhupada. In one of his letters on the Jaladut, he wrote that I'm nothing, I'm nobody, something like that.
Not like that, but
Not like that,
I get the humility.
Humility. So to attain that level of humility, like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, it says prema bhakti is required.
No. Which comes first, the cart or the horse? Does the cart pull the horse or the horse pulls the cart?
Horse pulls the cart.
Okay.
So
it's not, first we need prema bhakti and then we can be humble.
first we need prema bhakti.
No. That's what you said, and I was, wanting to edit what you said.
So we should endeavor for humility first, and
You said endeavor for service, and then when you start endeavoring for service, you realize how limited and covered, rust, using Prabhupada's phrase, rust-like. I'm not attracted to, the iron filings not attracted to the magnet because of rust. I have so much, so by humility you'll start to realize how far you are from from prema. And then adopting the sadhana to clear off the rust or clear off the coverings comes next.
by service you mean chanting, especially
all
or
things, all service,
things?
all service.
Okay.
Chanting is at the front end, but then all service that follows chanting. Look at your life. Look at anyone's life. We chant, and we do lots of other stuff besides chant. And that is how that other stuff can be explicitly in service to Krishna. And that's our life. Now, you want to keep going?
No, thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Over here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I had a comment and then a question. So when I saw the picture you showed of Narasimhadev, the very first slide, I remember my parents went to Mayapur end of last year, and I hadn't told my mother about the speciality or the appearance of this Narasimhadev here in Mayapur. But she called me after visiting the same night. She called from Mayapur saying that something is different in this Narasimhadev's eyes. So she noticed without me saying anything that something was very special in his eyes, and it's something very, very different that she's never seen before. So I just want to share that. From a first time visit, first time darshan, she could sense that. And then I told her the story about this pastime also, and then she definitely could relate to that speciality of the eyes there. just want to share that. And the question I had, Maharaj, was about the costless mercy. I think we heard it several times today. So I'm trying to understand, how does this costless mercy play a role in a devotee's life? Do we understand that we getting connected to this bhakti process is the costless mercy part, and then from there it's like the sadhana that takes us move forward, because we don't want to become complacent, right, just with the first aspect? Is that a correct understanding?
Well, it depends on what you mean by causeless mercy, because different persons could have a different idea of what that means, or what it looks like, or what it feels like. So causeless mercy, one way to look at what it means is there's no material cause. But that doesn't mean there's no spiritual cause, no material cause. Ahoituki pratyataya yatma suprasidati, as the Bhagavatam says. No, there's no material causation that can make bhakti happen. And there's no material impediment that can stop bhakti once it's happening. So it's causeless. There's no material cause. So, but what's the spiritual cause if it's not a material cause? The agents, like just using Srila Prabhupada as an example, those persons that are carrying the mission and carrying the six Goswamis carrying a mission of Lord Chaitanya, and kaboom, they distributed it. What was the cause? It was causeless, but they were distributing it everywhere. A little something that's nice to appreciate. During the time of the six Goswamis, there was oppressive government from the Muslims. Now, some were less, some were more, and there was a particular ruler that was the local Muslim ruler that was Muslim, but he was an educated Muslim and therefore had some appreciation for Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami, etc., without going into the details of that. But they're more so it was oppressive, and they didn't know. It's in their writings. Who are they writing for? Because there wasn't a printing press, and they didn't even know if the manuscripts would survive, because they're just on leaf. And was to preserve a leaf. There's certain ways of treating so it can last longer, but who knows? Etc., etc., etc. So they were writing, calling out to Krishna, like having a kirtan in a secluded place. It isn't an assembly. It's just you're calling to Krishna. And the trees and the everything that's can hear, that's who can hear. They had no idea. The point is, the six Goswamis, Rupa in particular, had no idea who would read Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's in the very beginning, his first verses. Therefore, I'm writing for the pleasure of my brother, Sanatana Goswami. May he protect this. His brother. May he protect, that means he's the representative of the Supreme Lord. He's the one that does the protecting. May he protect this writing from worldly disturbances. And that the good-hearted people, and who's going to read it? He had no idea. But he's mandated to write it. And later, he gifted all of his manuscripts to Jiva. Because he at least he didn't live under a tree, he had a temple. And then he kept everything safely, and then later the manuscripts, the original leaf texts. How do we know what's the actual writing of Rupa Goswami? Because they were preserved. How do we know what's the original? Here's a problem. How do we know what the original Mahabharata was? This is another interesting topic. According to Madhvacharya, there's no known validation of what the original Mahabharata was. And he had an issue about it, and therefore he didn't write commentary. He wrote Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnayas, and that's some sections that from his vantage point they were known. And then he commented on that. But the rest is like uncertain. So, back to your question. Our position is, just rather than specifically your question, back, the general topic, and I'm going to end with this. The general topic is, Prahlada Maharaj, did he have an idea that his words would end up in 7th Canto, Chapter 9, Srimad Bhagavatam, of his prayers? There wasn't a recording device, there wasn't anyway, it was resting upon the capacity of Vyasadeva to explain the teachings of the glorification of the personality of Godhead, and he was included. Prahlada is one of our 12 Mahajans. So what he said, and what Vyasadeva wrote about what he said, it's very important. So what's the message for us? And the message for us is, in this sense, the message of Srimad Bhagavatam is the message of Lord Chaitanya. The message of Lord Chaitanya is the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. So if we're going to understand Lord Chaitanya's message, read Srimad Bhagavatam. And you want to propagate it, read Srimad Bhagavatam, and then propagate it. There are different ways to propagate it. Distribute Bhagavatam sets, or hold classes where you discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, or have reading groups where together you read. So engage yourself with that which Vyasadeva gave, and try to receive the gift that he wanted to give us. And that's our life. From different positions and at different stages of our spiritual trajectory and all those things. The diversity is there. Receive and give. I'm going to end. Thank you very much for coming. We'll see you tomorrow at the temple. Maybe also tomorrow morning. Srila Prabhupada ki